Have you ever felt that persistent sensation that you're wasting your life? No matter how much you try to keep busy with people, goals, and obligations, deep down it feels like something essential is missing, as if you're just existing, not truly living. Maybe you've interpreted this as anxiety. A doctor might have called it depression and prescribed something to silence that discomfort. A pill in the morning, another at night, while time passes, numbing what you urgently need to hear. But what if I told you that this suffering isn't a mistake? What if I said it shouldn't be suppressed, but seen as a call? Carl Gustav Jung, a pioneer of depth psychology, believed that what we call mental disorder is often not pathological. It's the psyche trying to heal itself, a warning that life as it is now isn't serving your soul. Perhaps you are living an imposed routine, an exhausting job, relationships that drain your energy, dreams that aren't yours. Meanwhile, your essence cries out for freedom, but nobody taught you to listen to that cry. On the contrary, you were taught to silence it, to function, to adapt, not to disturb. So you become ill in silence while the world applauds your productivity. This is where Jung comes in. For him, healing doesn't come from denial, but from diving in. It's not about masking symptoms, but understanding what they are saying. Jung said that neurosis is a substitute for legitimate suffering. We get sick because we run from the pain we need to face to transform our lives. As long as we continue to flee, the suffering persists. This video is not for those seeking distraction. It's for those who are tired of pretending, for those who feel they're sinking but have a spark of hope that there is an existing path, and there is. It starts with the decision to stop running away and start listening. Listening to yourself, the unconscious, the pain you silenced with medication, addictions, routines. By now, you might understand that the emptiness you feel isn't weakness. It's the absence of yourself in your life. It's time to change. You've felt sadness for days, weeks, maybe months. You go to the doctor. He listens for a few minutes. You talk about insomnia, anxiety, chest tightness, a sense of disconnection. He nods, types something, and diagnoses anxiety, prescribes medication. In a few days or weeks, your pain becomes a simple chemical imbalance. An existential scream turns into a number on a prescription. What nobody tells you is that this treatment doesn't focus on the soul. It focuses on functionality. You need to keep working, producing, keeping the system running. The medication allows you to endure the unsustainable, offered as a definitive solution. But, as Jung warned, this solution is a trap. Jung believed that many modern neuroses don't come from brain failures, but from the disconnection between the life lived and the life that should be lived. Ignoring vocations, authentic impulses, and internal truths makes the soul sick. It expresses itself through the body and mind. Anxiety, panic, hopelessness. Instead of listening, we are trained to silence. We neutralize discomfort with chemicals, return to normal. But what is normal? A job you hate but can't leave. Superficial relationships to maintain appearances, empty goals, automatic routines, and a feeling of just surviving. The anxiety you feel is not a failure. It's your soul saying, "This life is not yours. You are betraying me." If you ignore this for too long, the body will scream louder. But the system always offers a new dose, a new label, a new sedative. The more you adapt, the more you distance yourself from yourself until you feel neither pain nor pleasure, just chronic numbness called adult life. Carl Jung warned that by medicating symptoms without understanding their roots, we create a false sense of healing. The person seems better on the outside, but continues to be lost on the inside. In the long run, this division between feeling and living causes an even greater collapse. Because you can't run from the soul forever, it will demand its price, whether through burnout, emotional collapses, or a void that nothing fills. This mass medicalization reflects something deeper, a culture that doesn't know how to deal with suffering and fears pain for having lost the notion of its transformative value. For Jung, suffering was necessary. It was the beginning of a journey. It was the call to individuation. But in modern society, any discomfort is labeled as pathological, and by fleeing from suffering, we also lose the chance to become who we should be. The question that remains is how many lives are silenced by treatments that merely camouflage the problem? How many existences are wasted for the sake of artificial stability? How many journeys are interrupted before they even begin? To start answering, we need to look at what lies behind the modern emotional collapse. This takes us to the next point: the environment we live in, the cultural structures that shape our identity, and the lifestyle that is often the true disease. Perhaps the problem has never been you, but the world that taught you to hate yourself. Let's talk more about this in the next part. If you're not yet subscribed, subscribe and follow our videos. Thank you for your help. Let's continue. Have you ever wondered why so many people suffer emotionally, even surrounded by material comfort, technology, and supposed freedoms? We've never had so much access to information, entertainment, and stimuli, and at the same time, we've never been so distant from ourselves. The root of modern psychological suffering is not just in the mind, but in the environment that shapes us from an early age. Carl Jung understood this clearly and incisively. For him, the problem wasn't just individual, but cultural and structural. We live in a society that values appearance and neglects essence, that rewards efficiency and ignores the soul. From an early age, we are led to follow a script: study, choose a safe career, be productive, consume, smile for photos, and hide any vulnerability. We grow up learning to please, compete, and win. But nobody teaches us to listen to our intuition, understand our feelings, or question what really gives meaning to life. This absence of meaning is not casual, it's programmed. We learn to believe that our identity comes from the outside, from the title we have, from the salary we earn, from the approval we receive. Jung knew this was a fatal trap. When self-worth depends on external standards, we become exposed to frustration and we move away from our internal nature, from the unconscious, from the soul. And that's where the void sets in. Slowly and silently, it dominates our routine. We meet all expectations, tick all the boxes, but still feel out of place. We live someone else's life, feeling something is wrong, but not knowing what. What we feel isn't weakness. It's disconnection. Disconnection from what is true, spontaneous, and instinctive. According to Jung, this disconnection fuels deeper psychological disorders. But society doesn't want you to realize this because disconnected people are easier to control. They consume more, question less, and follow orders without resistance. They are useful, docile, and predictable. When they finally collapse, hit by anxiety, depression, or burnout, the system offers only palliatives, never the truth. Jung said that to heal the individual, it's necessary to confront the world that hurt them. It's essential to understand how we were conditioned, what we repressed, and what we sacrificed in the name of acceptance. This task is painful because it involves admitting that you lived a life that wasn't truly yours, that you molded yourself to fit standards that suffocated you, that you were domesticated by a culture that fears true human essence. But recognizing the origin of the void is the only way to fill it with truth. This journey is called individuation. It's a profound and transformative process that Jung believed to be the true path to healing. In the next part, we will explore this journey. What does it mean to individuate? How to integrate the forgotten parts of yourself and build a life of meaning? The answer requires courage and surrender. Let's move forward. There comes a point in life when the pain becomes unbearable, when the social mask becomes too heavy, when we realize that we've been living as though we were only half, or worse, a caricature of ourselves. It's at this breaking point that, according to Carl Jung, the most important journey one can undertake begins, the journey of individuation. But what does it really mean to individuate? Jung wasn't referring to easy solutions or small changes. He was talking about a deep, almost mythical process where we stop being mere reflections of the external world, family, and cultural expectations, and start being who we truly are. In essence, individuation is the path to psychic wholeness. It's the moment when you stop being what others expect and start following the call of your own soul. This process isn't linear or comfortable, quite the opposite. It requires confronting everything that has been repressed, ignored, or denied. What Jung called the personal unconscious begins to reveal itself. Unresolved traumas, suffocated desires, inherited beliefs never questioned. Individuation starts when we decide to stop running from these parts and try to integrate them. But that's only the beginning. The most challenging and perhaps most painful step of individuation is encountering the shadow, the dark, instinctive, chaotic side that we hide. It's the unexpressed anger, the envy we pretend not to feel, the impulses that embarrass us. Jung said, "Those who look outside dream. Those who look inside awaken." Looking inside means confronting the shadow without masks, without excuses, without moral judgment. Why is this crucial? Because the shadow, if ignored, controls us without our realizing it. When integrated, the shadow transforms into a source of power, authenticity, and vital energy. You can only truly live when you stop fighting against yourself and reconcile with everything that inhabits you. Individuation is this: rebuilding internal unity, reconnecting with the self, the regulating center of the psyche, the living totality that you are in potential. Here's the great irony. While the world insists you need to improve, Jung said you need to become whole, not more perfect, but real, not more suitable, but free. True healing is not in fitting better into the world, but in aligning your inner world with the truth of your being. This process can be solitary and arduous, but it is the only one that offers real meaning to existence. Because living from your center changes everything. Your choices, your relationships, your way of suffering. Suffering ceases to be a punishment and becomes part of a deeper transformation. But an inevitable question arises. Why do so many people shy away from this journey? Why do they remain anesthetized, repeating patterns, avoiding confrontation with their own souls? The answer lies at the root of modern suffering. The absence of meaning, a silent epidemic that corrodes from within even those who seem well. This is what we'll talk about in the next part. Maybe your pain is not a problem, but a symptom of a deeper truth. Your life hasn't yet had a clear purpose, but that can and should change. Look around you. How many people do you know who seem to just exist, not live, who follow an automatic routine full of empty commitments, superficial distractions, and immense fatigue? Jung knew this suffering wasn't accidental, it was structural, existential. For him, much of modern man's suffering comes from a brutal realization. Life has lost its meaning. We're not talking about a great cosmic mission, but personal purpose, alignment between what one does and who one is. Living according to an internal truth and not under the demands of a world that idolizes success but wounds the soul. Jung realized that the deeper symptoms, like anxiety and depression, often disappeared when people found meaning in their lives. Not when they took medication or made money, but when they found a why. Because, deep down, you can endure almost any pain if you know why you are living. Without this sense, even the greatest pleasures become banal. Even the most ambitious goals can seem empty. This reflects the epidemic of emptiness we face today. People exhausted, not only by the burden of tasks, but by the lack of purpose. Lives full of commitments, but poor in significant direction. Jung understood that we need to feel that we are part of something greater. We need to believe that our existence has weight and meaning. Without this, we collapse internally. Suffering becomes disorientation. The soul seeks a path, but the world offers distractions, likes, series, self-help, productivity techniques, miraculous courses, try to fill a void that only truth can complete. The truth is that many live a life they didn't choose. They were pushed down paths that please others but betray themselves. They chose careers disconnected from their values. They maintain relationships that weaken them. They live in places that suffocate them. They repeat routines that wear them out. And the body feels this. The mind collapses. The soul withdraws. There is no remedy for lack of meaning. What is missing is not serotonin. It's direction. It's not dopamine. It's identity. That's why Jung's depth psychology is so urgent, because he wanted people to live authentically, with the courage to declare, "This life is not for me and I will not continue this way." But how to do this? How to begin to rebuild meaning when everything seems designed to distract you from the essence? Jung offered an answer. Reconnecting with the unconscious. There, in the forgotten parts, lies the key to your purpose. We will explore this in the next part. How the unconscious, far from being a repository of traumas, can become your ally in healing. What you avoid facing may be what you need to discover to live meaningfully. Most people want to heal, but few are willing to face the necessary challenge. Contrary to what conventions say, true transformation does not start with positive affirmations or the creation of new habits. It begins with a confrontation, a dive into the depths of one's own soul. Carl Jung taught us exactly this. There is no healing without contact with the unconscious. But what is this unconscious? For Jung, it wasn't just a repository of repressed memories or past traumas. It was a vast symbolic universe that holds all the parts of us that have been forgotten, denied, and abandoned. Our most authentic impulses, our deepest fears, our most painful truths. Everything you've tried to ignore is there, waiting. And why does this matter? Because what you don't face in the unconscious comes to govern your life without you realizing it. Jung stated clearly, what you do not bring to consciousness returns as fate. You think you have bad luck in love, but unconsciously you repeat the same patterns. You believe you're sabotaged at work, but deep down you fear success. You think you're a victim of the world, but in reality you're being controlled by unaddressed traumas. The unconscious is like a dark mirror. It reflects who you are, not who you'd like to be. It's frightening because it reveals painful truths and exposes the masks you've created to survive. It demands you abandon the illusion of control and embrace internal complexity. But precisely in this confrontation lies healing. The more you deny the unconscious, the more it dominates you. More reactive, impulsive, and fragmented you become. However, the more you integrate it, the more whole you become. Jung called this the expansion of consciousness. It only happens when you stop running and start listening. But how to do this? Through dreams, symbols, art, silence, meditation, analysis. The unconscious doesn't speak with logic. It communicates with images, sensations, and emotions that seem to come out of nowhere, but it's not nothing. It's you. It's the part of you that was locked away, waiting to be recognized. And when you start to listen to this part, something changes. You begin to see yourself more clearly, understanding your decisions, embracing your wounds, and above all, reclaiming your power. Not knowing what resides within you, you become a hostage to others, to the past, to expectations, and to culture. But by courageously diving into the unconscious, you begin to free yourself. You understand that the anxiety that paralyzes you isn't an enemy, but a message. That the sadness that visits you isn't weakness, but a sign that something needs to die for something new to emerge. This process is demanding. It requires time, patience, and depth, and it asks you to abandon the comfort of the surface. But it is the only path to authenticity. And it is from this authenticity that you can rebuild your life, no longer as a hostage to the unconscious, but as a conscious creator of your own destiny. Now that you understand the role of the unconscious in pain and transformation, one last question must be asked. What is stopping you from starting this journey? Why, even aware of this, do so many remain paralyzed, living on autopilot and repeating meaningless lives? The answer lies in fear, fear of change, of the unknown, of abandoning the familiar, even if it is harmful. In the next part, we'll talk about this fear and the most challenging and liberating choice you'll need to make to stop wasting your life. Because, in the end, either you live anesthetized or you awaken. There is no middle ground. The time will come to make a choice. Not just any choice, but the choice. The one that separates who you are from who you were conditioned to be. That defines whether you will continue living a borrowed, empty life or commit to the most serious promise to yourself, the commitment to your own soul. If you've come this far, it's not by accident. Something inside you is awakening. It might still be a whisper or could already be screaming, but it's there. This call won't disappear, as it comes from the most profound and honest part of who you are. The part that refuses to accept that life is just work, obligations, distractions, and survival. The part of you that knows, even inexplicably, that there is something greater waiting for you. But it will only be revealed if you have the courage to move toward yourself. Carl Jung said that the greatest privilege of life is to become who you truly are. He also knew this is the most avoided path because it demands that you abandon everything that is comfortable, predictable, and superficial. It requires facing deep fears, confronting your shadows, and questioning everything you've been taught as truth. This is exactly why this path is sacred. Because it transforms, because it truly heals. Most will continue on autopilot, preferring numbness to clarity. They will accumulate possessions, distractions, and likes, while inside they silently decay. But you don't need to be just another statistic. You can choose. Choose to stop wasting your existence. Choose to come out of anesthesia. Choose to build a life that makes sense, a life that is truly yours. I'm not saying it will be easy. It won't be. It will hurt. It will confuse. It will require breaking away. But it will also bring liberation. And there is nothing more powerful than an awakened soul. When you start living according to who you truly are, you become unshakable. You stop asking for permission, stop comparing yourself, and stop losing yourself trying to please those who will never understand you. So, I ask, what do you need to let go of to start truly living? What is the lie you still tell yourself? Comment below. It doesn't matter if it's a phrase, a confession, or a question. The simple act of writing is already a step toward leaving the anesthesia, a gesture of presence, of choice, of awakening. And if this video moved you, if any part touched a wound or ignited a spark, you need to see the next video. Not because it's a continuation, but because of its importance. If you've come this far, you're ready to go even deeper. Now, more than ever, it's time to continue.